Hello and welcome to Inside Edition, where we discuss national, regional and international issues in depth. The reform project launched by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, King of Bahrain, played the main role in shaping the future and drafting the country's development strategies based on the development of education and training in order to create an encouraging learning and teaching environment. The Kingdom of Bahrain has charted a clear path towards securing its leading position at the GCC, regional and international levels in the field of education and training quality. The Bahraini government realized the need to equip the Bahraini society with the best teachers who are committed to lifelong learning, professional behavior, international best practice, and evidence-based instructional strategies. Such realization resulted in the establishment of Bahrain Teachers College in 2008, where great Bahraini educators are shaped and nurtured. To talk more about the college's aspirations as well as achievements, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by the Dean of the Bahrain Teachers College, Dr. Ted Purinton, right after this. Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you, Dr. Purinton, for being with us today and answering some of our questions. When it comes to the teachers, the Bahrain Teachers College establishment in 2008, there must have been some kind of standards or aspirations that came in when the college started. Can you tell us a little bit about the college and what these aspirations were?
Sure. In 2008, the college was established in a partnership with the National Institute of Education in Singapore through a contract that was started by the Economic Development Board of Bahrain and the Minister of Education. And that left three elements that are still in place today. The first and perhaps the most important, and one that you see replicated throughout the world, is the importance of establishing a teaching profession that is based on getting the best and the brightest of graduates into the teaching profession before they go into other fields, and giving them opportunities to demonstrate their academic strength in a teacher preparation program. BTC is one of the most highly regarded programs, higher education programs in the country, and so we have a very good success rate at getting many, many applicants to the program. The second part is about the academic foundation of the program, and so it was very important that the college was still situated deeply inside the University of Bahrain as an academic element, because at the end, the teaching profession is a profession which is based on a knowledge base that is global. Yeah. And so that element has not only been retained but expanded in terms of partnerships that we've developed around the world past Singapore. Right. The third one is the governing council of the college. In addition to being part of the university, we are also overseen by a council chaired by the Undersecretary in the Ministry of Education that enhances and solidifies a relevance. Yeah. So the programs that we offer are not just abstract ideas, but these things are desired by the ministry and overseen by their efforts.
Right, and these and all of these actually feed into the fact that there are certain standards set in order for a graduate to graduate then from the college and be able to practice. How do you look at it as in the international collaborations with the college when it comes to actually putting that seal of approval to standards of your graduates?
So the NIE program, or the NIE partnership, really developed a series of programs in the college. We used at the very beginning their standards and their curriculum and their expertise to develop the college. But over the past decade, we've been expanding that because any academic institution, especially any teachers college, is based, as I mentioned, in a global recognition of a knowledge base that has been developed in countries around the world. So we're more than anything now a part of a very deeply embedded network of institutions in the world that not only are teaching educators and getting educators prepared to be in classrooms, but developing and sharing knowledge. You know, one of the most critical elements to that over the past decade has been the fact that we've wanted to become more and more relevant to the needs in Bahrain.
Right.
And that is true in every teacher's college around the world. Even though we're based on global standards of knowledge, we know that to apply those, we have to be very, very thoughtful about the local needs, the local schools, and what families and students are needing from teachers.
Absolutely. When it comes to the addition that the graduates give to the schools within the Bahrain educational system, do you feel it has elevated it after the 12 years of the college being there?
Yeah, so one of the most exciting parts about our development was that we were one of 3 pillar institutions created in 2008 alongside the Bahrain Quality Assurance Authority.
Yeah.
And the Polytechnic College.
Right.
And all 3 of those were set up to provide a wide range of human capital development to allow Bahrainis to be very competitive in terms of their human capital aspirations.
Right.
And BTC was one part of that. But it was in a very integral relationship with the Bahrain Quality Assurance Authority.
Right.
They provide a standard.
Yeah.
It's objective, it's non-biased, and people in practice have to try to reach those goals. And a teacher's college, any academic institution in that regard, related to a profession, serves as the intermediary function. We help put the details onto those standards. We help people learn how to achieve them.
Right.
We give them the knowledge base to be successful at achieving
Right.
that knowledge.
Right, right. Well, the Bahrain Teachers College performed its duties on the basis of ambitious vision, firm values, and an important set of objectives. Can you tell us more about that, and what are the college efforts in achieving these objectives?
So the foundation, as I mentioned, through those pillar organizations, really served as a comprehensive effort to address all levels of human development, from early childhood to adult retraining and everything in between.
Right.
And I think even though you could have added many additional institutions, it was a real brilliant execution of these 3 to look at how you can drive system improvements, efficiency, and collaboration across institutions to give people the skills and knowledge that they need to be competitive in the labor market.
Right.
And the focus that we have had, along with these other institutions, has been on developing entrepreneurs, analytic thinkers who can adapt to the wide-ranging changes that we see going on in the labor market. Nothing that we teach is going to necessarily be in place permanently for decades ahead. We have to be prepared, and we have to prepare our students for skills that will emerge and show up in throughout their careers. And so we aim to provide the level of analytic thinking that will help people grow and develop over their lifetime.
Well, luckily, 2020 was one of these challenges, wasn't it? When it comes to the Bahrain Teachers College, it places great importance on the practical and online education, especially during COVID-19. What can you tell us about that, and how did the adaptation come to the fact that this is a pandemic that we're going to live with for a couple of years to come now?
Yeah, so, BTC has been known for quite a long time as being very avidly focused on instructional technologies, and so all of our graduates go into the schools fully prepared for the wide range of tools. But around the world, those tools were really developed for enhancing classroom practice and adding on to things that were already taking place in classrooms. So we were all around the world given this opportunity to develop further this past year, and I think it really is a testament to the very hard work and dedication of our faculty and students that I believe, even though we all want to be back in person, at some point we didn't lose anything educationally this year.
Absolutely.
In fact, we're of course, as I said, wanting to get back together in person, but there are some things that we gained in the experience. The hallmark of our programs is our apprenticeship program, which is really similar to teachers' colleges around the world. Our graduates, our students, are in schools, in the Ministry of Education, each year working side by side with teachers, and our faculty supervise those efforts. In the first semester of the closure, when none of the schools were operating face-to-face, we had our students still do their teaching practice or their student teaching experience online, so they gained skills in that regard. And then in September, we worked closely with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health to get our students into the classrooms in the current hybrid format. So that itself is an additional skill that our students have gained. And I think in the end, we're all better for it. It's been a challenge, but you know, people have been working really hard to continue these efforts, and it's showing.
When we talk about it being a challenge, it was actually more of a challenge for the teacher than it really was for the students, if you really look at it that way. I mean, for years now, there have been online educational portals such as Khan's Academy and other very famous portals that are used all over the world because of the unified aspect of education as education, whatever country you're in. But when COVID came on, students were used to these online portals that they're using, but the teachers, they had to readdress how they're going to get the information over to those students and so on. Did that affect the way this year, especially this year of graduates, were trained in order to go into the field?
Well, it did, but at the same time, it was really a matter of exploration, trying to figure out how to achieve the most important element of teaching. We often think that teaching is the act of giving a lecture and conveying knowledge to students. But I think, and most of us realize, that's the easy part. The hard part is in understanding what students are struggling with in terms of their grasping a new concept and so forth. And so the teacher, the real skill of the teacher is about problem solving and trying to figure out how to support each individual student. That was a bit of a challenge in this environment, and I think what we learned is that it's still very possible. It's just a matter of reconfiguring how we think about our day and how we think about our time and how we think about setting up relationships with students. So as I said, I don't think we lost anything this year. In fact, I think we gained quite a bit.
One thing that, just to clarify for the viewers, is when it comes to the Teachers College, the students are educated on ways of teaching to others, to the school students. They have already their degrees in whatever specialty they have chosen, and then the Teachers College trains them in the way of teaching. Now, keeping that in mind, as you said, it's not just about the lectures. You also put into consideration different learning ways for the students, the different students, how they learn, how their capacities are, what the schools provide, private schools versus public schools, all of that. But during COVID, some of these things were basically unified because you only had that one portal that you are talking through the camera, and then you had the issues of basically, are all the students there? Are all of them listening? How am I going to grasp their attention, and all that kind of stuff? Do you see that training further within the technological field, or basically video teaching, is going to be something that you're going to teach on for years to come, even after COVID?
Yeah, I think that's really the beauty of what happened this year for those students that did the apprenticeship program still this year. Whether it was the first semester of the closure or the second, the one that we're finishing at this current moment. In the first, we focused entirely on how to deliver instruction in a fully online basis, and the second in a hybrid model. And both of those did take very different skills. I think at first we all thought, well, this is just going to get us by for a short period. No, the reality is that there are a lot of things that we've benefited from this, and we've seen this across, not only here in the Ministry of Education and the private schools, but around the world. There were a lot of students that felt like these opportunities were better suited to their learning styles. In the end, I think there's an enormous amount of connection that happens in a physical learning space. But the reality is that there is so much more that can happen when you introduce technology And so these things will live with us for a very long time.
Yes, they will. I mean, one of the things at the beginning of the pandemic that happened was that the Ministry of Information, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, we had actually on our stages teachers coming and teaching the students. And when we did a couple of surveys after that, that physical connection became stronger between the children and their families, because the mothers and the fathers would be like, oh, okay, it's 8 o'clock. You have a class right now, and then that connection became stronger. So there still was that physical aspect, although it was in a different form, but as well it was very rewarding. The Bahrain Teachers College contributes to achieving the National 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. How does this provide support? How does the government provide support to facilitate these positive contributions?
It's been a very comprehensive plan that has been enacted since 2005. And we're seeing development in this area every single year. And it's been, since I've been here in the past couple of years, ramping up very, very quickly to get to the final phase of implementation toward 2030. And so the Supreme Council for the Development of Education and Training, chaired by His Highness the Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Mubarak Al Khalifa, has set targets. In essence, they are called the Governmental Priorities Framework, that have focused on specific benchmarks that we will be meeting in order to achieve those goals. And two of them that are relevant to BTC are numbers. We want to see that 80% of educators by 2029 in the Ministry of Education have received a qualification from the BTC. Yeah. And the second, which is integrated with this, is centralizing professional development and knowledge sharing in the education sector through the BTC. Right. Right. And so together, both of those things strengthen the college's position in its role as being a central component to development in education. Just in 2019, there was a review conducted under the Supreme Council's direction on the college's ability to achieve those goals, headed by the former Director General of the British Department of Schools. And it gave us a pathway to meeting those goals by 2029, which we are putting into place right now.
Great, perfect. After almost 13 years of dedicated efforts, what are the procedures taken by the college to assess the outcome of their educational programs, and what are the ways that you foresee will you maintain these successes?
So as I mentioned, that we serve as that intermediary between the Bahrain Quality Assurance Authority and daily practice, because our role is to provide the knowledge base for performance. I think in many ways what we want to see is that though our outcomes of our own students are important, what they learn and how they demonstrate their learning is important, our real goal is the students of our students. And at a much higher yet very important level, the labor market, the ability for Bahrainis to benefit from an enhanced educational system. Our goal, of course, is that we're doing a fantastic job in our own classrooms or online right now, but ultimately we care about how this affects the economy and what it does for the vibrancy of the labor market in Bahrain. And so that's where we are focused in terms of our goals. And so helping educators meet the requirements of the Bahrain Quality Assurance Authority is one good way that we can see that that is getting done. It's helped us revise our programs, it's helped us stay on target in terms of what our real goals are. But also a lot of the international benchmark exams, the TIMS exam and the PEARLS exam are exams that we're not aiming to perform well on those. We're using those to judge, are we making progress towards measurable, meaningful goals? One of the most incredible outcomes of all of this has been an effort that was inaugurated in 2019 BTC's Leadership Center. It was
Right.
an effort to consolidate school improvement effort through knowledge sharing, working with school leaders who are working tirelessly to improve school quality.
Yeah.
And it's just one example of how our effort is aimed at the big picture of educational improvement.
Yeah. On a side note, this year during the TIMSS exam, Bahrain did score very high marks when it came to the mathematics and science sections, and everybody was proud of that. And one of the things that really makes us proud of Bahraini schools is that we do not have one standard yet, but we're on the way to having one standard of education when it comes to the public and private sector, with a couple of things that are left out. But is that really the target that you're looking for at the end? That when people talk about the Bahraini educational system, that's one standard, hands down, this is one of the good ones?
Yeah, indeed. In fact, I think this is where we are starting to see a lot of excitement around the world about Bahrain's efforts in this regard. I think the progress is everyone knows from 2005, when the 2030 initiative was established, is gaining a lot of momentum right now towards goals such as a common framework, a common understanding of what it means to be educated at every single level, from early childhood to adult retraining.
Right. How do you value the international recognition of Bahrain's achievements in the educational field? We mentioned the TIMSS, but there are also other achievements that came within this year.
Yeah, so there are quite a few, in fact, and I think this has been one of the drivers of our excitement and passion in improvement, primarily because we have so many things that need to be demonstrated to the world about Bahrain's progress. One in the college is our nearing completion of our pursuit of international accreditation.
Okay.
We will be accredited hopefully very soon by the US-based Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation.
Great.
It will be the third teachers college in the region with this accreditation.
Great.
But also many of the international partnerships that we have developed with universities and embassies here in Bahrain have been a result of the desire for the world to include Bahrain in that knowledge sharing network. So it's been a really significant opportunity for us to demonstrate our progress and to learn from each other.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the teacher swap programs that have been going on for a few years within our region, but internationally maybe less so, do you feel that that's a really important part of the education you give to your students?
One of the things that makes BTC, I think, so special is our international characteristics. Of course, as I said, we are mostly focused on meeting needs in Bahrain, but in order to stay part of that network, we've developed relationships with universities in the UK, Switzerland, New Zealand, and the US to make sure that our faculty, for the most part, are in the flow of knowledge around the world. So more and more over the past couple of years, we've seen joint research projects and joint publications between our faculty and faculty members from, for example, the University of Auckland and other universities around the world. And I think that attention has been noted by the embassies of the United States, the United Kingdom, and Thailand here in Bahrain, because BTC represents to them, I think, a good indicator of the progress that is being made.
Right. A lot of progress is being made, but I'd like to hear from you, from your point of view. How do you see the future of teachers in the educational institutions in Bahrain?
You know, in this time of extraordinary technological development, it's easy to think about organizational budgets as comprising technology and other physical assets. But in education, throughout time and throughout the world, you'll see that the focus is on personnel, people, because education is ultimately a human endeavor.
Right.
You know, the new airport, for example, you'll see budgets focused on personnel, but you'll see a lot of purchasing of assets.
Yeah.
And you don't see that as much in education. Of course, we'll see more technology, we'll see more multimedia, and so forth. But at the end, it's about human beings with human beings, teachers with students. And that human touch will never, ever go away. Despite all we've learned this year, everyone sees that it is important to have people involved. And so I think the most important element of the teaching profession, and BTC has helped exemplify that in Bahrain and regionally, is the importance of expertise, the expertise of every single individual educator. Because at the moment you drop your child off at school, you're entrusting them into the hands of people who are not just caretakers. They are experts, and they are there to transform the ways that we as human beings think and behave and create and analyze. And that is ultimately for their own good and for the good of the country.
Yeah. When it comes to the vision of the student that comes to the college and applies to the program and then graduates and becomes a teacher, is there a standard to who the student should be, what they truly should believe in, and then come apply to the college? Can you give us an overview of what the ideal student would have in his mind or how he would approach?
Two elements, and we take both into very strong consideration in the admissions process. We're as I mentioned, through the governing council of the college and our close relationship with the Ministry of Education, we don't accept the students ourselves. We work with the ministry, who accepts all of our students because they are all employees of the Ministry of Education. Right. And this is, I think, one of the most important components of the foundation of the college, that we are not in abstract creating people from which the ministry can choose. Yeah. We are shaping individuals who are going to be teachers, without a doubt, because they've been given a contract to do so. And indeed, that is one of the things that has made the college so successful and the profession so special in this country. But what are we looking for? Two most important things. Number one, do they already have a strong, solid academic background? Do they have the skills to be leaders in the profession? But that's not enough. We really want, and the ministry has focused on this steadfastly, we want people who are dedicated to the learning of children and youth, and dedicated to their role as not only classroom teachers, but country builders. Right. And you see this, of course, not in 2020, since I haven't been to the schools in 2020, but before the closure, I regularly visited schools in the Ministry of Education, and walking into classrooms, especially of BTC graduates, it's incredible. You walk into a place that is engaging, exciting, fun, and you see students learning. And that's driven, of course, from the skills that they gain from the college, but it also comes from who they are as individuals and the passion that they have for this project.
That's amazing. What can you tell us about the college's, as an end note, what can you tell us about the college's upcoming projects, its plans in the future?
So we are, as I mentioned, engaged in those governmental priority frameworks right now, and the focus of that is, of course, increasing the number of students who graduate from the college, because we are trying to achieve that 80% target by 2029. Right. And so a lot of that will see a growth of the college in the coming few years, and much of that growth will come from adding on to our postgraduate programs that provide qualifications to new teachers, practicing teachers, and people going into new positions. You know, as the Ministry of Education is undergoing a complete reorganization right now, many of the new positions that are being developed will need qualifications that BTC will provide. And so we've been working very closely with the consultant and the ministry in development of those programs. And so we'll see, I think, many, many more people come through the college. We're working with international universities right now to bring a very prominent university to from the UK to Bahrain to deliver a graduate program. We're looking at, of course, as I mentioned, finishing our process for accreditation. So what we'll see by 2029 is not only 80% the target having been met. Not only the centralization of training in the BTC, but a very strong component of quality that the BTC should be driving, because again, we're situated to be a purveyor of knowledge in the field.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be able to not only meet those targets but exceed them in many, many different ways.
Well, hopefully that will be soon, because 9 years, 2021, 8 years to go, and we'll do another show where we can actually host these changes hopefully soon. Thank you so much for being with us today and answering our questions. Thank you for being with us, and see you next week in another episode of Inside Edition.